course, we're looking at what's actually normal when it comes to night feeds and when you can expect your child to not need to feed during the night. This is something that I'm sure that you are wondering about. You may not actually know what the latest studies are showing us about when a child can go without a feed during the nighttime. You may have searched online, and this may be why you found this video, because you've been searching online for when can my child no longer need to feed during the night? How can I stop night feeds? There's a lot of conflicting information there online. These are some of the things that I found on really popular websites showing that children should be sleeping through the night, not needing to have a feed during the night from 3, 4, 6 months of age. Okay, let's just stop right there, because this is actually false. This is not current information. A lot of studies that were done were looking at how much children could sleep and when they could go without a feed during the night are actually studies that were done in the 1950s and 60s. So we're looking at 70 years ago. Formula back then, these studies were all done on formula-fed babies. Formula that then was very, very different than it is now, and very different to breast milk. Breast milk, formula milk digests very quickly. 70 years ago, formula did not. It would sit very heavy in the child's stomach. So even if you gave them a big feed before they went to bed, you filled them up 6, 8 ounces of milk before they went to sleep, that would sit for a really long time digesting in your child's stomach. And that's when they could go without a night feed, was because they were having this milk that just took a real long time to digest. Latest studies show, one that was done in 2015, not that long ago, actually shows us that between 6 and 12 months of age, 80% of children are waking during the night, and over 61% of those need 1 or more night feeds. That means that most of the children need 1 or more night feeds up to a year old. And so that means feeding during the night up to a year old is actually normal, because most children are doing it. Now, of course, there are some children who aren't doing it. There are some children who are not feeding during the night. That can start really, really young, but it's actually normal for most too. So all the information that you're seeing online is, some are, most are not. So if your child is still feeding during the night and they are under a year, they're normal. It's great. They're doing okay. Now, once we get past a year, then more and more children will reduce down the amount of feeds that they're getting at nighttime, and will reduce down the amount of milk that they're getting at nighttime. And the older they get, the less and less amount of milk that they will need. And normally, most children are now not needing a night feed when they get to 2 years old. So really, when can we stop then these night feeds? What's normal when it comes to night feeds? I wouldn't even suggest trying to mess around with night feeds until your child is at least 6 months old. They'll do their thing. They're still really new. They're not even half a year old. They're still really new, and I would just feed them. Once we get past 6 months, then we want to see if we can work on getting our minimum amount of night feeds at that point. So that may be 1 or 2 feeds a night up until they're about a year old. Once they get past a year, then I think that we can see if we can get to 0 feeds during the nighttime. This may be a slow, gradual process. You do have another video, so you want to check out the other video that I have on how can we reduce down night feeds to get to that minimum. That's going to give you lots of help, lots of tips on ways that you can reduce that down. Because of course, we all want to be getting a good night's sleep, but those feeds are normal. Another thing that you want to remember is your child waking during the night is not necessarily the calories. Now, of course, if your child is hungry, they're going to need calories. They're going to need something in so that they're no longer hungry. But feeding isn't just calories in. Breastfeeding is the ultimate in comfort. Snuggling with your child as you are bottle feeding them is really, really comforting to them. So if they are actually seeking out that connection, it's going to look like they need to have that feed because they're seeking out that connection. You may notice that they suddenly kind of spring up again if your child is reaching a big developmental milestone where they're learning lots of new skills, or something big is happening in your life. You're moving house, they're starting daycare, you have somebody coming and visiting. These things can also impact how your child sleeps, and they need this extra connection to help and support them through this big thing that's happening. And that may look like them waking up for a feed, where in fact they're seeking out that connection. Now, if they're seeking out that connection, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't give it to them. By all means do, because we're then helping them through this big stage that's happening right now, and means that because you're supporting them now, they'll be out of that much quicker. So actually starting up a feed again, or continuing to do a feed, may actually mean that you're not going to be feeding so much quicker, because you're giving them the support that they need there and then. So that's one reason why a child could be feeding during the night. Now, of course, calories in, calories out. If your child is not getting enough calories during the day, they're going to seek that out at nighttime. So if they're hungry, honestly, the best thing to do is feed them. Because if they're anything like me, they're going to get pretty hangry, and then kind of no one's going to be sleeping. If you're hungry in the middle of the night, you woke up hungry, what would you do? You'd probably get a little something to eat. You'd go and get a drink. Do that for your child. They're going to have the same needs that you do. So do that for your child. And of course, if your child doesn't have the skills to get themselves to sleep, they are fed to sleep at the beginning of the night, they may then need this during the night. Waking up is normal. We all do this. Humans do wake during the night, and we can do this anything up to 10 times. Now, 10 times is pretty excessive. That's a lot of wake-ups there, definitely. But if your child can only fall back asleep by feeding, then when they naturally wake during the night, that's how they're going to rely on getting back down to sleep. So some gentle sleep training can actually help with that, where you are teaching them the skills. You're gradually working on moving away from feeding, and you're actually teaching them the skills to get themselves to sleep. Then this will probably look like longer stretches at night, dropped feeds during the night. This is something that we really extensively look at in Slumber Academy. Teaching those skills for your child to fall asleep gently. You're still going to continue to feed. You're not just stopping feeding. You are gently, gradually working on moving away from feeding your child. Once they have these skills, then we see what they naturally fall into at nighttime. Are they naturally dropping feeds? If not, we nudge them in the right direction, and we gradually transfer more of those feeds to the daytime, reducing down at nighttime. So we're not leaving anybody hungry. We're not leaving anybody crying. You are there, and you're helping and you're supporting your child as we are teaching them those skills to get themselves to sleep more independently. So if your child is relying on the feed in order to get to sleep, that may be why they are seeking that out at nighttime to get back to sleep. I say, check out Slumber Academy. This is where you're going to find real extensive steps. Let me hold your hand as you work on helping your child to be sleeping a little bit more independently. Make sure you check out my other masterclass, which is really looking at the how you can work on reducing down those night feeds, different techniques that are going to work for your child. I'll see you soon.